Hello and welcome to another standard video here in the preview event for Aetherdrift. So thanks to Wizards for letting me preview the new set a few days before the official release. Today we're taking a look at a blue-red pirate deck, which features a lot of the new cards and some of the new discard synergies as well. At 1 mana we're playing the full set of the Marauding Mako, which is a 1/1, saying whenever we discard one or more cards, put that many +1/+1 counters on this creature. So it will trigger for each card we discard, so that can get out of hand very quickly, and I'm sure this will see a lot of play in older formats as well, where you've got cheaper ways to draw and discard, but even in standard this can grow quite quickly. And then it also has cycling for 2 mana, so if we top deck it later and we don't want to play a 1/1, we can still just pay 2 mana, discard and draw, and then maybe enable other copies that we already have on the battlefield, even at instant speed. Then at 2 mana, very similar, is the Scrounging Skyray, a 1/2 flying version of the Mako. And at 3 mana, one of the new payoffs is Monument to Endurance, a 3 mana artifact saying whenever we discard a card, choose one mode that hasn't been chosen this turn between drawing a card, creating a treasure token, or each opponent loses 3 life. So if we discard 3 cards, we could choose all 3 modes, and it also triggers during the opponent's turn, so we can maybe get even more uses out of it if we've got some instant speed cycling abilities, for instance. So these are most of the new additions. We're also playing 2 copies of the Ironclad, purely for the single red cycling ability, so we can discard and draw and enable some of our synergies. And then it's also an artifact that we can find with the Staunch Crewmate, which is a 2/1 pirate. When it enters, we get to look at the top 4 cards to find either a pirate or an artifact card and put it into our hand. So we can find all our creatures, as well as our monument, the Ironclad, and even Brass's Tunnel Grinder, which is a great way to enable the Mako and some of our other creatures. As it enters, we get to discard any number of cards and then draw that many +1, and then there's a small chance we can turn this into a land. If not, it's still an artifact that will stay in play for a while, and then at some point we can maybe sacrifice it to a Tortured Tower to enable Bargain, or we could target it with our own Kitesail Larcenist, turning it into a treasure, as well as turning an opposing creature or artifact into a treasure for as long as we control the Larcenist, so that's an answer for bigger permanents. And then Malcolm is another excellent way to enable our discard synergies. Can maybe flash it in the opponent's end step, and then if they don't have any blockers, we can hit them, draw and discard, enabling our synergies while improving our hand. And if we do that 4 times, we can also maybe put a permanent in play for free, although we're not really counting on it. Then we've got Into the Floodmaw as another cheap bounce spell to interact with the opponent's plan. And then at 4 mana, the 2 copies of a Roaming Throne, which we can also find with our Staunch Crewmate. This name's Pirate, and then now future crewmates can maybe find 2 cards when they enter the battlefield, so that's awesome. We also get to put additional counters on our creatures whenever we discard a card. Malcolm triggers twice, and Larcenist can exile 2 of the opponent's creatures or artifacts, so there's a ton of synergy with the Roaming Throne as well, as I'm sure you're aware of if you've seen any of my previous videos. Then I did also try the Artillerist very briefly while testing the deck, but I wasn't particularly impressed, even though it does have good synergy throughout. We just end up cycling it more often than not, since a 3 mana 1/4 isn't really good enough for the current standard, doesn't have a high enough impact when we play it, so I just ended up removing it and making room for more interaction instead. And then looking at the mana base, we finally get the blue-red Verge land as well, so that's additional mana fixing for any blue-red decks going forward. Still have Spirabluff and Sheevan Reef, no Surveil land since we're trying to curve out for the most part, but Cavern, naming Pirate, is still good against opposing counter spells, and then a couple basics. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play. We've got a keepable hand. Malcolm to enable monuments. Skyray, another payoff. Well, let's see what we're up against. Another blue-red deck. Alright, so stick to Malcolm. An opposing Skyray could block Malcolm, but it's going to be a fear of missing out. Alright. So also a discard deck, but a Grixis variety. And I go for the throw discarded. Alright, so tempting to just play some creatures out instead of monuments. So we can play the Mako, Skyray attack, start growing those, and then we might end up cycling the second copy. Still might have to hang on to Malcolm, number 2, in case the first one gets removed. I guess they both cycle for 2 mana. So we're on the board, but Malcolm's got a pretty big target on its back. Fabled Passage, good for Delirium, so we've got instant land. Alright, we see them passing with 2 mana, so likely removal for Malcolm, in which case I would probably look into keeping up mana to play another one. Could play Skyray before attacking, so if we do get to hit with Malcolm, that's good, but I'm not counting on it. Do I want to cycle this perhaps? That's also an option, just to keep attacking on the ground. Alright, let's try that. So, not gonna play Monument, which seems counterintuitive, but expecting Malcolm to die. Yep, Burst Lightning. And then we'll just cycle here. Possible they have a cut down in response, but nope. And then we'll pass. And they've got their own Shark. And a Fabled Passage. Alright, let's see if this works. Go for a throw at my Skyray now. Still pretty happy if we get to connect. So, yeah, if this works, playing this before attacking would give it an extra counter. But if they have a 1-mana answer, I think I'm better off cycling this. So I'm just gonna go to attackers and see what happens. Malcolm lets us loot. Can get rid of my 1-drop, keep the Skyray. And then Monuments could go for lose 3 life. Or we could still draw. Close call. I think we're maybe at a point where we can start closing out the game. Especially with another card I can cycle. Could have been reasonable to keep both cyclers, so that's 6 more damage. But we'll keep some interaction. So we have double red, double blue, double black. And a Tunnel Grinder. So, can always respond to the trigger here. With Torch a Tower. Can first see how many cards I want to discard. A lot of them. And that'll do it. Awesome. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play. We've got Malcolm to set up our Skyray and Monument, so we'll try it. If Malcolm gets answered, our hand looks a lot worse. Facing Mountain into Bastronaut, so up against Goblins. Alright, so wouldn't be able to block Bastronaut even if we wanted to. So we're going to be on the back foot. Finding efficient removal is going to be important. And our opponent's got the Seer Slicer with the raid enabled, so they can already start going wide. Alright, Torch. I think we wait on Monuments and set up our defenses with Skyray. Keep up Torch. And hope they still cannot take out Malcolm. Portmaster, that one I would love to torch. So, may as well do it now. So we only take 1, but our opponent can still increase their speed. So play Monument now. Just attack with Malcolm. And I'll go ahead and draw a card. discarding probably a land. And then I'll still play a land out so we can maybe cycle this, which would enable the monument to draw again. Might be better off waiting on another monument first. Max speed could represent their 3-drop, making mana, or celebrations giving the team haste if they have Krenko. And of course this now also has double strike, and they can pay 2 mana to pump it. Engineer, another way to give creatures haste. Yeah, let's take my turn, and then play another monument, play my 1-drop. Might be my last chance to attack with Malcolm before they make a 4/4 flying token. So gotta get the most out of it. Discard land. And then I draw and probably make a treasure. And then I don't feel inclined to play a tap land here, although it is a close call. Yeah, maybe it's fine to play still, since we'll get more card advantage from the monuments, so mana could be a limiting factor. But I'm gonna hang on to this if I can, so we can play another monument first. Alright, Firebrand will be an answer to Malcolm as well. And Krenko, if that's a problem. So, opponent can now go incredibly wide by sacking their celebrations. And we may not have a lot of time to close it out now. Although that being said, I could now cycle this, make our opponent lose 6. We'll see if they keep back Firebrand for Malcolm. Looks like it. And they're just gonna fire it off now. Alright, so if that's the case, we're not getting attacked for lethal. Next turn I can play another monument, cycle this, which is 9 damage, plus 5 is 14 exactly. Okay, so we should still have it. I guess it's fine if I trade here, since our opponent's got ample blockers. And we could have maybe cycled one more thing as well. But yeah, keep it simple. Opponent loses 3. That's 9 damage. And then I could cycle some more if I wanted to, just to see what else we can find. But yeah, opponent's dead to an attack. Awesome, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with interaction heavy hand. So it's not gonna be doing a whole lot other than removing creatures. I think we mulligan. Alright, this is a bit better. So we can play Shark on 1, Malcolm on 2. Crewmate is card advantage, Larcenist is removal that we don't have to wait for. Yeah, maybe it is Larcenist over Crewmate here. And then Malcolm into Sky Rays, most likely, or Curve. So facing blue-red. Hopefully Malcolm can stick around, as we see Inti, so it could be another discard deck. And a Torch, which I currently cannot cast. do I keep Islands? It does let me play Monument next turn, which then can cast Torch. Alright, I guess we'll try this. Although if we lose Malcolm, then Monument doesn't do much, whereas Larcenist can at least still interact. But I will need more lands. Alright, there's a Shark. ENT attacks. Discarding a Thrill Roller. And then exiling another Shark. Alright, that's not bad. So, don't think we want to double block yet. Use it or lose it. There's another Shark. And we found another land here. So I can play Monument and still have Torch up. And then draw with Malcolm. And then I may as well just Torch now, so we can attack. Since there's no cycler for single blue as far as I know, that would be commonly played. Could also consider just making them lose 3 life, but for now we'll still draw. Gotta make up for our mulligan. So, gotta hope the flyers can keep connecting. Fear of missing out, another nice enabler. So we're taking probably 7 damage here. And yeah, the Torture Tower in exile is pretty good. Can remove Malcolm. So then we're just working with a Sky Ray in the air. Although I guess now we can attack with our own Shark. Alright, there's another flying blocker. So, interesting spot. Tunnel Grinder does give us a way to trigger Monuments. Floodmaw would be a bounce spell. So let's see. Yeah, discard any number of cards, then draw that many +1, so we just draw. I kind of wanted Floodmaw to be the next draw step. I guess we just Tunnel Grind, discard, draw 2, and take it from there. We are potentially dying next turn. Gotta read this once again. So discard a card, return it from the graveyard with Finality, also has haste. So that can hit us for 4, so yeah, we're probably not getting another turn. If we can't close it out here. So I guess we'll try and close it out. Find Torch crewmates. And now we can still decide. So if I make them lose 3, I force them to chump with Fear of Missing Out. Although I guess never mind, I don't have red for Torch. So I'd have to go for Treasure. So maybe we have to play defense here. Which is not quite where I want to be. Finding... might be another Tunnel Grinder over Larcenists. But that's a close call. And then I don't think I can attack. Yeah, the Torture Tower shutting down Malcolm was a big deal, although I guess Siren also could have blocked. And there's another Torch. So we're down to 2 blockers. So can they keep Delirium? Currently just creature and instant, if they were to get back the vehicle. But they might get Delirium with Fear of Missing Out, and then a double attack with a Trampling Ainty would be pretty backbreaking. So opponent activates the Thrill Roller. So no Delirium on Fear of Missing Out at least. But Ainty can still maybe deliver. And a Tunnel Grinder discarded, so there is now Delirium. But of course it was too late for Fear of Missing Out. So we got a 6-6 and a 5-3, can double block the 6-6 I suppose. And then this is Crew 2 in the future. Yeah, we have to block something, and I don't think chumping is a way to win. Because yeah, even if I draw another red source, I wouldn't have anything to discard to the tunnel grinder, so I guess I would have to tunnel grinder, draw into a red source so I can torch the siren. This grows up to 5, lose 3, but that's still only 8 damage. So we're still a little bit short. So let's just double block there, lose the Sky Ray, and then it's going to be an uphill battle from there. And they can still explore. Sky Ray on top. Yeah, the lack of double red means my turn's a lot more awkward than it could have been otherwise. Alright, there's red. Although, if I played now, then I wouldn't have anything to discard to the tunnel grinder. Fear of missing out got 4 toughness, so I can just get rid of an Eenti. And then, yeah, it's still not looking good. So I probably just have to go for a Hail Mary tunnel grinder here. And then just discard both cards and hope for the best. Draw lands and Larcenist. So I can play a land, and if I make a treasure, still play Larcenist. We're not closing out the game, so I may as well draw. Fine torch, alright. So I can play a Larcenist. Going for Fear of Missing Out. And my own tunnel grinder, so that turns into a treasure I can sacrifice for torch. And then I don't think I'm in a position to attack. If I want to torch with bargain, I will have to sacrifice my monument, which isn't ideal. And now Eenti gets to trigger as well. Finding Captain Howler for mana, so they can cast it. And a card in hand. Could also just see the vehicle getting crewed. And then a discard from Eenti to get it up to 6 power, which would force the monument play I described. So yeah, we'll let it attack, we'll let the discard happen. I guess never mind, then this would get 2 extra power. So I can torch Eenti now, and then the Thrill Roller doesn't have a good attack anymore. And then definitely bottom that one. Alright, the game goes on. But it does feel like we're behind now, especially with another land off the top. So, yeah, if there's any discard effects left, that's bad for us. But I think Larcenist gets in there, hoping for the best, although anything that crews Thrill Roller means I would die. So I probably can't even attack. Just go to pass. But yeah, it feels like there's going to be a discard effect to enable a good attack now. Still had some good back and forth. Seeing the less pirate-heavy build of blue-red, which also seems to have some very nice tools. Of course, Fear of Missing Out is staple in multiple formats by now. And now Kiora also enabled. So that should be the final nail. Captain Howler gets to pump the trampling vehicle, thanks to Kiora's discard. And that should be more than enough. Maybe playing it safe. But yeah, we're forced to block. And then I guess we don't want them drawing, so go to double block. And a land. Alright, GG's. Kiora makes a 8/8 token as well. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play. Our hand seems functional. Probably gonna hang on to the Ironclad to cycle it until after we deploy the Skyray. And now Malcolm is more appealing as a way to enable some of our synergies. Opponent's got a Dredger's Insight, so they're filling the graveyard. So no immediate answer to Malcolm, although we do see Swarmweaver, which is going to be quite good at making flying blockers. So let's get the most out of it. Play Skyray, attack. And then Crewmate is good with the Roaming Throne. I maybe don't need Larcenist. And then I can still cycle the Ironclad. Opponent's gonna remove Malcolm, sadly. And another Dredger's Insight. Still fine to do this on curve, as opposed to maybe waiting for Roaming Throne. And we see Terror Tide, at least they cannot select that one. But the Emerald Irradian can make lots of insects. Alright, so first going for a Roaming Throne, and then don't know if I have time to deploy another one, probably need to play the Crewmates to find more action. Opponent for now is still filling the graveyard with Overlord. Mold Tender, a mana creature for graveyard decks. And gets back their 6-drop. And the Dredger's Insight, keeping them alive as well. Alright, so step 1, Crewmate. And Tunnel Grinder looks good. And do we want another Malcolm or another Skyray? And then the question is what to play this turn. I might just go for Tunnel Grinder, so then it doesn't really matter what I select. And just discard as much as we can. Even though my hand is decent, wouldn't mind keeping another Crewmate. But I just want to try and grow the Skyray as much as we can. So yeah, it's a lot of damage. And small chance we can even survive a Terror Tide here. Only -5/-5. But of course they can play a Swarmweaver, making death-touching tokens to get in the way. So then we'll have to fight through it with Torture Tower. Because I have to mention our opponent has Delirium, Land, Sorcery, Creature, Enchantments. Opponent's gonna Collector's Vault first. And then play Swarmweaver. So if we draw another removal spell, we can win. So step 1, probably cycle the Skyray. Just a land. Alright, so in that case, I guess we're no longer interested in attacking. Unless, let's see, I guess we could just take out the Swarm Weaver itself with a Bargain Torture Tower, and then these will lose Death Touch. It's not quite lethal, but it's something. And then Larcenist might be okay. It would trigger twice. Opponent falls to 1. And probably still okay to play a land out. And then we'll flash in Malcolm end of turn. Opponent keeps digging. Discards their 6-drop. And a Quack Feast. Yeah, I guess our opponent's got 11 cards in their graveyard, plus they're gonna mill some more. Although I guess it just looks at mana value and not power. So 2-drop down. And a Maverick. Can that gain them some more life? It's when cards leave the graveyard. So yeah, this Malcolm should be just good enough to cross the finish line. Especially once we Larcenist. Although, if our opponent's dead on board, I guess we don't need to give them treasure. Alright, opponent had another blocker here, turns out. So I'll be forced to play Larcenist to clear a path. But odds of our opponent having instant speed removal are pretty low. So play Kite Sail. And attack. GG's. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a reasonable hand, bit land light perhaps, but I'll try it out. Can cycle the Ironclad right away, and then look to combine Roaming Throne with a Larcenist eventually. Turn 1 Diver, could be a vehicle deck. Oh, that's a lot of Tunnel Grinders and not a lot of cards I can cast. Coordinator can scry 2. Can make pilot tokens in the future. Alright, at least we can play a Tunnel Grinder if we'd like. As opposed to Larcenists. Turn this into a treasure. Don't want to ramp my opponent this early in the game. So yeah, not ideal here having to play a grinder without any real advantage in play. So maybe hang on to 1 Tunnel Grinder. I found a land for next turn, although it will be tapped. Otherwise we're gonna play our Shark and follow that up with a Tunnel Grinder, ideally with a Roaming Throne in play. For now, Chariots can name a non-land card to make those activations more expensive. Goes for the Ironclad. There's only 1 left in the deck. So, probably just double Shark this turn. Don't feel the need to play Larcenists. Although it could also shut down the Chariots. And then the setup's a little slow if we want to play Roaming Throne first. It's going to be a hover ship to exile one of them. They get to make a pilot. And we're going to see Chariot getting crewed. Take 4. Alright, still gonna try and play Roaming Throne, I think. And then next turn we'll get double Larcenist triggers. May as well attack for 1 since I'm not blocking. And now a Salvation Engine, pumping artifact creatures by 2. And yeah, opponent can potentially crew it to get artifacts back from the graveyard, so this is not good. Take 9. And then I guess we gotta block this, even though they get to take out my creature. They could also go face, and then I'm at 1. But they played safe here. Alright, time to Larcenist. Can go for, let's see here. Yeah, the engine, and then I guess the chariot. And then we'll still have Torch the Tower up. Can also target the Tunnel Grinder. No attacks. I guess there's also a Bivouac to worry about. So we've got a few problems. Ooh, Valor Flagship, another huge vehicle. Okay, I guess we torch the Coordinator, so they don't get to make an extra pilot. And then Larcenist blocks Hovership, so we're still technically alive. And then next turn we can exile the flagship with Larcenist once again. Otherwise we can't really beat the flagship. Alright, so could also play Monument, which sets up our Tunnel Grinder for next turn. And still not really in a position where I can comfortably attack because of the Bivouac. Ooh, Chandra. Can that burn me out? Can make vehicles, draw cards, and then eventually the emblem can deal damage. But yeah, making hasty 3/2s each turn is eventually gonna get me, and a Glide Car as well. And that can gain flying. So that's a problem.
No breaking till the end.
So they can activate this at any point, tapping 3 untapped creatures, which currently they only have 2. Another Monument I can't quite play, so just play Tunnel Grinder. Discard, and then draw with the Monument. Unless we want to make a treasure, which would let me double spell Malcolm and Torch. I guess I haven't played land for turn yet. Alright, found an untapped land. So now what? Gotta go after Chandra. Problem is if they find a third creature to put a counter on it, I wouldn't be able to torch it anymore, although I guess I could still jump with Malcolm. I think we just gotta send the 2 flyers at Chandra. And then somehow hope that Malcolm plus Torch keeps me alive. Because if they crew it normally, it doesn't have flying. Only when they use the alternate mode. So it's similar to kind of a Warden of the Inner Sky almost. Bivouac animates. So now they can activate the glide car. I'm gonna just crew it instead. Crew the other vehicle. Alright, that might line up fine, since we can block Bivouac. Or I guess, yeah, Throne can go on glide car. Malcolm trades for the vehicle, and then Bivouac we can torch in response to the trigger. Yeah, that still works out. So I'll just torch the vehicle. Play Malcolm. That will have to trade, so I don't get to enable Monument with it. Assuming there's no removal. But I guess it beats dying. Alright, so now we're down to just 2 pilots. We'll keep Virgin Hand to eventually discard. And then we have to be somewhat careful here. I guess we attack with a Larcenist that has things underneath it. Possible they can hardcast another big vehicle. And we are out of answers. A crewmate would be lovely here with a roaming throne in play to double the trigger. Explosive getaway wipes the board. And their opponents got their flagship back, although I guess they cannot crew it at the moment. Found another Malcolm. Alright, game goes on. And now Chandra is probably game over.
I'm gonna smoke the competition.
As they can fire up a vehicle. And then, yeah, we're just too far behind at this point. Flagship animated, can jump. Yeah, we had a rough start to be fair, having to play Tunnel Grinder just to hit our lane drops without enabling anything. So it was an uphill battle from the start, but now we're just dead. Chandra animates Valor. And that'll do it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a promising hand. Could use some discard effects. That's what we're currently missing. But at least we've got good interaction. Facing Kellen. Out of a blue-red deck. Alright, I'll still favor playing my own creature. Got more removal with Larcenist. And there's green as well. So they might be trying a similar thing, just with some different colors and without focusing so much on the pirates. Soul Cauldron, I guess, points in a different direction now. And Malcolm is kind of what we need. So, can't really attack. But now we have options between interacting or deploying Malcolm. Probably need Malcolm just to hit our land drops. Although this might be my last chance to take something out with just 2 damage. Arona, so looks more like a Legends deck now that I look at it closely. Which makes sense. Alright, opponent's not attacking. So they're maybe scared of what we could do at instant speed. Which gives us the opportunity to deploy Malcolm. And then I could play Skyray before attackers. Yeah, that's certainly reasonable. I'm still hoping to hit a land drop for a turn. And one Larcenist can go, I think. Got Torch the Tower available, Eenti probably the scariest creature, although if they start leveling up Kellen, that could hit hard as well. And then now, I should probably Torch Eenti before they get value from it. Otherwise they would get to exile the top card here. And bouncing Kellen can also maybe reset it, so that's not a bad answer. Italy's opponent is going big with a 7 mana Dino. And Kellen attacks for 3, we'll take it. Well, so far so good. Larcenist also pretty decent answer to the opponent's creatures. So, can just send in the flyers. Find another Sky Ray. Might want to just ditch it now and play a Larcenist. And then what to exile is another interesting question. Don't think it's Kellen. Gwenna can give them 2 mana, which could be scary if they're ramping into a tally, but that's still kind of far away. So I think it's Rona, actually. So can still be sacrificed. I guess with the treasure they could maybe cast an Atali. Aha, it's gonna be the new 5 mana god. Reach, Trample, Indestructible. Can still exile it with a Larcenist. Can't attack or block unless it has an even number of counters. Beginning of the first main phase, put a counter on it. And then potentially draw 2 cards. So there's a lot going on. But can either bounce it or just turn it into another treasure. Opponent does not attack, and Monument. So now, if I want to play the Monument, this can still block, so I can need to deal with it first. So in that case, probably just another Larcenist. So we can keep attacking. Kellen levels up. Opponent falls to 7, so the flyers could be lethal next turn. And at this point, Roaming Throne's probably no longer needed. And we can keep up Floodmaw. Do I need to bounce Gwenna now? Certainly an option. But even if they do manage to cast an Atali, they need to hit removal or flyers. So I can just keep Floodmaw to answer those. Partners also have reach. Opponent sacrifices Rona for a Cauldron. So what abilities can they give? Make their team indestructible? Or just loot? Yeah, that's okay. Floodmaw should get the job done. They probably want to put a counter on Partners, so it gets a bigger trigger, but at this point we'll just bounce it. Opponent doesn't get any additional counters. And that should wrap things up. And then now the Monument can finally trigger off Malcolm as well. Can send in the entire team. Alright, and that'll do it. Sweet. So we got to see our newest version of Blue Rat Pirates in action, now with a very big discard sub-theme. And I'm not quite sure that this is the ultimate build of the Blue Red discard deck. We've seen other versions with cards like Fear of Missing Out and Eenti, which are individually maybe a bit more powerful. We're counting on a few more synergies like the crewmates and our Roaming Throne to bail us out. But we could also play this in a much more controlling build without the creatures, but still with the Monument, and that's something I'll definitely explore as well. So yeah, lots of cards to be excited about to try out in the new standard, but for now we'll keep tinkering until we find the perfect build. So that'll do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.